just over this last period, there's a couple of things that I've been going through as I've studied and looked at God's Word. And it was amazing how it has come out in the songs that were being sung today. The Lord works in strange and mysterious ways, and I couldn't have asked if I'd chosen the songs myself, just how wonderful those words would be. The one that comes to mind immediately is, "He will reign forever and ever." And that is really who we are celebrating on this Christmas day, is the one who will reign forever and ever. Yesterday in our service, we were looking at God, the Ancient of Days, the one who is, was, and is to come. He has always been there. If we look at John 1 from the beginning, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. He was God in the beginning." In those short sentences, John is saying something to us that is incredibly deep. Incredibly deep. He's saying to us that Jesus Christ has always been. That the child who came to Bethlehem, he's always been there. The miracle is not so much that Mary conceived God. The miracle is that God, who always was, who created the world, came in the form of man, in a body, in this world, in time, to carry out the most wonderful plan of salvation for you and me. So many people look at this world today and they say, what a mess it is. And we don't know why it is the mess that it is, because everybody's a good person and we just have to be nice to one another and everything will be fine. Well, we've been trying to be nice to one another for thousands of years and it's still not fine. And the reason why it's not fine is because each one of us is full of sin. Each one of us is proud and arrogant. Each one of us thinks we know best. Each one of us wants our own way. Because that is what we are as sinful people. Well, what's going to change us? We know that on New Year's Day, there's the New Year's resolution. This year, I'm going to be better. I'm not going to be so angry anymore. I'm not going to waste so much money or time or whatever. And for those of you, and I don't think there's many left, who smoke, I will stop smoking. And we know that lasts for about 10-15 minutes and then you're back to normal. Because we cannot change ourselves. We need to be changed. And the only way we can change is we have a new life. If there's a new beginning in us. And that new beginning can only be found in Jesus Christ. We cannot change the world. We cannot even begin to change ourselves. But Christ can change us. And as we look at this child that was born on Christmas Day, it is with the understanding that he was and is and will always be God. and that he came into this world to save us from ourselves. And there will be people who will reject him, as there always have been. But those people have to suffer the consequences of their rejection. Because, as that song says, he will reign forever and ever. There will come a time when this whole messy world will be rolled up, in whatever form. And as Daniel said, and he looked and he saw the Ancient of Days on his throne, and he looked at the one who was like a man coming down to sit in judgment. Christ will sit in judgment on mankind. And you will belong to one or two. There is only two groups of people that you can belong to: the sheep or the goats. The sheep will receive their reward and be with Christ forever and ever. The goats go to eternal damnation. And some people say, well, why? That's terrible. Well, can you imagine how terrible it must be for a goat to be in heaven? If all your life you've never wanted Christ, why in your death would you want him then? How terrible it must be to be amongst the saints of Christ when you can't even be with them now. This Christ who has come, this Christ whose birth we celebrate today, grew up. He died on the cross at Calvary for our sins, to change us. If we would only bow the knee, come to the cross and recognize that we have sinned against him and that we deserve damnation, but in his mercy and his grace he has washed us clean, and he's given us an opportunity to be in his family. What it is to be welcomed into somebody's family. We don't deserve it. There's nothing in any of us that makes us good and kind and loving. It is God that gives us this opportunity. So, as you come together today, if you're a Christian, celebrate what God has done in your life. Not because you're a nice, good person, but because he's a merciful and a loving God. And if you're not a Christian, I want you to take this day and look to your own soul and to your own future. We all should be looking to our future, and that's an eternal future, and say, well, where are you going to spend eternity? It's a simple question. Heaven or hell? It's easy. Where do you want to spend your eternity? Because if you're not a Christian, heaven is not an option. You'd hate it. But I'm looking forward to that day when he will reign forever and ever, and I can worship him forever and ever in the glory of Christ. Not only will I celebrate the child that was born today, I will be celebrating the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords forever and ever. Amen.